Hey, welcome to the channel for my Premier League predictions. Game week 30, we are getting to the latter stage of the season, Premier League 2023-24 campaign season. If you are new here, subscribe to the channel, put on the notification bell. Anytime I release a video, you may be one of the lucky people to get notified. Without wasting much of your time, let's get into the Game week 30 predictions. Oh yes, moving on to the first game in Game week 30 is between Newcastle United versus West Ham United. This game is coming on at the St. James Park, and going to this game in Game week 30, Newcastle at the moment are 10th on the Premier League table with 41 points as it stands in Game week 29. Facing a West Ham United team who is also now 7th on the Premier League table with 44 points as it stands in Game week 29. Going to this game will be an interesting game, but I'm predicting a draw game. I'm predicting Newcastle United 2, West Ham United 2. Oh yes, moving on to the next game in Game week 30 is between AFC Bournemouth versus Everton. As it stands in Game week 29, Bournemouth is now 13th on the Premier League table, and going to this game against Everton side who is also now 16th on the Premier League table. Going to this game at the Cherries, it will be a tough and interesting game. I'm predicting a slight win for Bournemouth. I'm predicting Bournemouth 2, Everton 1. Oh yes, moving on to the next game is between Chelsea versus Burnley. As it stands in Game week 29, Chelsea so far so good has played 28 games and they have 39 points and now 11th on the Premier League table. Going to this game facing a Burnley side who has also played all their 29 games, so this will be their 30th game, but they have 17 points and they are now 19th on the Premier League table. Going to this game will be an interesting game. I'm predicting a straight win for Chelsea. I'm predicting Chelsea 3, Burnley 1. Oh yes, moving on to the next game is between Nottingham Forest versus Crystal Palace. Nottingham Forest at the moment are 18th on the Premier League table as they were deducted 4 points, so they have 21 points and now 18th on the Premier League table. Going to this game against a Crystal Palace team who is also now 14th on the Premier League table with 28 points as it stands in Game week 29. Going to this game will be an interesting and a tough game. I know Nottingham Forest will fight hard to get at least a point or all the 3 maximum points, but this game will be a tough game, so I'm predicting a draw here. I'm predicting Nottingham Forest 2, Crystal Palace 2. Oh yes, moving on to the next game is between Sheffield United versus Fulham. As it stands in Game week 29, Sheffield United is now 20th at the bottom of the Premier League table with 14 points as it stands in Game week 29. Going to this game against a Fulham side who is also now 12th on the Premier League table with 38 points as it stands in Game week 29. Going to this game in Game week 30 will be an interesting game, but I'm predicting a straight win for Fulham. I'm predicting Fulham 2, Sheffield United 0. Oh yes, moving on to the next game is between Tottenham Hotspur versus Luton Town. 5th on the Premier League table against 17th on the Premier League table. Tottenham Hotspur now have 53 points as it stands in Game week 29. Going to this Game week 30 against Luton Town team who is also now 17th with 21 points. I think it will be a tough and interesting game, but I'm predicting a straight win for Tottenham Hotspur since they want to be in the top 4 race, and this is a chance for them to get into the top 4. But I'm predicting Tottenham Hotspur 3, Luton Town 1. Oh yes, moving on to the next game at Villa Park is between Aston Villa versus Wolves. Going to this game in Game week 30 will be an interesting game as it stands in Game week 29. Aston Villa is now 4th on the Premier League table with 56 points, going to this game against a Wolves side who is also now 9th on the Premier League table with 41 points. It will be a tough and interesting game, but I'm predicting a straight win for Aston Villa. I'm predicting Aston Villa 2, Wolves 1. Oh yes, moving on to the next game is between Brentford versus Manchester United. Going to this game in game week 30 will be an interesting game. As it stands in game week 29, Brentford is now 15th on the Premier League table with 25 points, and going to this game against a Manchester United team who is also now 6th on the Premier League table with 48 points. To be a tough and interesting game. Going to this game, I'm predicting a draw here. I'm predicting Manchester United 1, Brentford 1. Oh yes, moving on to the next game is between Liverpool versus Brighton. Going to this game in game week 30, Liverpool is now 2nd on the Premier League table with 64 points, and going to this game against a Brighton side who is also now 8th on the Premier League table with 42 points. It will be an interesting game at Anfield. Going to this game, I'm predicting a tough game here. I'm predicting a draw. I'm predicting Liverpool 2, Brighton 2. Oh yes, now moving on to the game of the week in Premier League. Game week 30 is between Manchester City versus Arsenal. Going to this game in game week 30, Man City is now 3rd on the Premier League table with 63 points, and Arsenal is also 1st on the Premier League table with 64 points, 1 point difference. And going to this game is a tough and interesting game at the Etihad. This determines who tops the Premier League this season. And going to this game, I'm predicting a draw here. I'm predicting Manchester City 1, Arsenal 1. Oh yes, so these are my predictions for Premier League game week 30. If you're new and subscribe to the channel, put on the notification bell, like this video. My like target for this video is just 100 likes. Like and comment your predictions at the comment section. Till we meet in another video, bye bye for now.